Is religion really the cause of all war, conflict, and problems in the world? Is it really a poison? And is it really as bad as child abuse as many atheists say? Many of the most popular new atheists, like Sam Harris, who wrote the book The End of Faith, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, and others, they all say that religion is the primary problem in the world. They said it's the number one cause for war and conflict, and they say it operates in the realm of superstition, not in fact. Whereas science gives us fact, religion is just superstition and leads to war. So if we went by science and we got rid of our superstition, which is religion, then the world would be more peaceful, it would be more happy, it would be more progressive, and we would get more done rather than just all of these senseless holy wars. And in fact, Richard Dawkins himself says it's as bad as child abuse. To be religious, to have religion, is as bad as child abuse. Christopher Hitchens says it's the single worst thing in the world and it poisons everything. And I'm sure you remember the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, its sequel. Even Angels and Demons makes this myth reality in their book, and they say that high body counts are found anytime you have religions, and there seems to be a correlation between religion and violence and high body counts. But all of this is just not true. I mean, the world would not be better under atheism, and atheists make two mistakes. Number one, they fail to see all of the good that religion has done, and very few atheists ever talk about the good that religion does. In fact, Sam Harris is one of the only ones I know who mentions it a little bit. And they fail to see the evil and the atrocities that come about without religion in atheistic systems. So in this video, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to show that religion, all the good things religion has done, and that religion is better than atheism. And there's far more atrocities, far more horror, and far more high body counts under atheism. So that's what we're going to look at right after this. Hello everyone and welcome to Catholic Truth. My name is Brian Mercier, president of Catholic Truth, and we speak the Catholic truth. We want anyone from anywhere and any religion to come to know what the Catholic Church teaches and why. And if you would like to help our growing ministry, please consider supporting us on Patreon and PayPal. And we want to thank our newest patrons, which we saw recently. People have been giving $50 a month, $30 a month, even $10 a month. It all helps to save souls and change lives. So thank you. And if you haven't yet, check out our book, Why Do You Believe in God? 15 Conversations with Atheists, Skeptics, and Non-Believers. We talk about a lot of this stuff in that book. So let's get on with this. So there is an infinite amount of good done by religion that atheists just refuse to look at or are completely ignorant of. And there's a whole wealth of atrocities and evil and horrors done by atheists, which they refuse to grapple with and they like to ignore. So let's look at these right now. First, when you say that religion is the source of all war, horror, and violence in the world, it's a poison, what religion are you talking about? There's many of them. Yes, of course, there have been some bad things done by religion. Of course, nobody denies that. And yes, some religions are much worse than others, but you can't put all religions in the same category. I mean, would people really think that Buddhists, or worldwide are just killing people in mass numbers and, the world would be better without Buddhism? I mean, there's some religions that really strive for peace, and they just lump all religion as if it's the same thing in one category. And to me, that's dishonest and not intellectually honest. But let's just take Catholicism alone. Let's look at the Catholic Church since we're Catholic. The Catholic Church alone has been the largest charity on the face of the earth over the last 2,000 years, meaning we feed more people, we clothe more people, we educate more people, and we help more people on planet Earth than anyone else. And that has been the case for 2,000 years. We started hospitals, we've started orphanages, we've combat drug trafficking, child trafficking, many other things. Day by day by day for 2,000 years, we have tried to help the poor in many of the poorest countries in the world, where many other religions won't even go because it's too poor and you have to do too much work. The Catholic Church goes to help the poorest of the poor, to help those who have nothing, and to help those in need. And this says nothing about all the soup kitchens we run, all the shelters for runaway children we run, and so much more across the board. I mean, the Catholic Church alone does so much good for people across the world, and people honestly just don't know the scope of how much the Catholic Church does for people. even through the Dark Ages. Many people blame the Dark Ages ignorantly on the Catholic Church. They said it was the Catholic Church that kept people at an intellectual standstill for over 1,000 years. They refused to progress science. They wouldn't let anyone else progress science. They didn't progress education. Education was pretty much at a standstill during the Dark Ages. But this is all false. The Dark Ages were dark because of the barbarians, the Vikings, Huns, Danes, Visigoths, and all of those barbarian tribes ransacking the Roman Empire over and over and over again. And nobody could stop them. I mean, for hundreds of years, they burned the Roman Empire to the ground, burned libraries. And why do we have education still? Why do we have literacy, even though they burned libraries and books galore? Because it was the Catholic monks who copied these books and saved them from being burned. When one town was being invaded, they'd grab as many books as they can, and they would run to another location, and they would start the copying process again. Not just Catholic books, but secular books too. Things like Cicero and Plato and things like that, they saved. We would not even know these books today if it wasn't for the Catholic Church. Not to mention that the Catholic Church copied the Bible for over 1,000 years and rescued the Bible, even under pain of death, from these barbarians so that they could copy it over and over and over again. We probably wouldn't even have a Bible, or very, very rare copies if we had any at all. But it was the Catholic monks who saved literacy and helped build Western civilization. It was the Catholic Church during the Dark Ages that developed the university system. And it was the Catholic Church that developed the scientific method and so many other things like law, economics, and so many things that we take for granted today. All religion. Atheism did not invent these things. Atheism did not start these things. Even Islam in the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries were great scientists and mathematicians before the Caliph put an end to that. But the bottom line is religion helped build Western civilization as we know it, where atheists did practically nothing. And they blame religion when in fact they should be commending religion for all of these good things. Have bad things happened? Yes, of course. Absolutely. Nobody denies that. Every organization, everywhere is going to have bad people in it. And you're going to have bad things that happen, especially an organization like the Catholic Church that's 2,000 years old. Any organization that's 2,000 years old are going to have some black marks. That's just the reality of it. God didn't make everyone perfect, and everyone in the church is imperfect. But that doesn't take away from all of the good that religion, just even the Catholic Church, has done in civilizing the barbarians, civilizing the Vikings, civilizing cannibals, and actually taking away the old world and bringing it up to date with its education systems and with its education and expanding education for the common person, not just like the super rich and wealthy. And not to mention that it's created some of the most beautiful art, architecture, and music in the history of civilization. The Catholic Church alone, not including, Protestant religions, Islam, and other, good things that these religions have done too. Just the Catholic Church alone has done immensely good and helped to build up the world and make it infinitely better. Atheists will be quick to point out, well, look at Galileo. Clearly you hated science. No, we don't. You're just using one example in all of history to make it look like one thing is the whole. And atheists don't understand the whole story anyways, and we have a whole video on Galileo. But the reality is, even if what they say about Galileo is true, they ignore the fact that we invented the theory of the Big Bang, genetics, advanced seismology, cosmology, and so much more. I mean, every aspect of science we advanced. We helped to develop just go to Google and look up Wikipedia, priest scientists, and your mind will be blown at all the accomplishments, hundreds, thousands of accomplishments that the Catholic Church has done, which is why there's 35 craters on the moon named after Catholic priests, because of their advancements in math and science that were extraordinary. It's amazing. And they might bring up, well, look at 9/11, that was a religious act. And the 30 Years' War, that was a religious act. Oh, and look at the Crusades, that was barbaric and a religious act. Oh, and the Inquisition. Most of these things they don't even know about. They haven't even studied these things in depth. And we have videos on all of them. And the reality is, the Catholic Church is not guilty of most of these things that they acclaim it for. In fact, if you want to look at Islam, yes, Islam is a violent religion. And yes, in the Bible, Judaism was a religion of war too. But they didn't start most of those wars. Most of the Jewish wars were in self-defense for all those nations around them who were attacking them. And God came to their aid and helped them in an era where there was a lot of tribal warfare, where they wiped out all clans and wiped out the other people, usually men, women, and children. That is what tribal warfare was in the day. And that is what Israel was already invested in many ways when God was helping them. And most of their wars, again, were self-defense. But again, just modern day, Islam, yes, Islam is responsible for wars. And even Muhammad was on the battlefield for a lot of his life. He was doing wars for a lot of his life. And even after he died, over 100 years of straight war, Islam conquered everything from Afghanistan and the Fertile Crescent all the way over to Africa, all the islands, into Europe, pretty much a large chunk of the world just in 100 years. In Islam, yes, they have a warfare, a history of warfare that's over 1,000 years of just warfare and conquering. So if you're going to look at a religion that is violent, yes, Islam would fit that bill. But you can't therefore say, oh, well, Hindus are that way, and Buddhists are that way, and Sikhs are that way, and all these other religions, they're all like that. And if they had the opportunity today, as Richard Dawkins says, they would still do that, but they just can't do that. They're held at bay. It's just a lot of nonsense that Richard Dawkins spews. But the bottom line is, not all religions are like Islam. Yes, Islam is one religion, and they were violent for most of their history. In fact, that's why the Crusades were started as wars of self-defense, to protect the Holy Land and the people in the Holy Land and people who are being slaughtered on the way to the Holy Land, and to protect Christians around the world, innocent Christians who were dying, and to come to the aid of the Eastern Orthodox who had asked for the Pope's help. The Catholic Church had no intention of getting into war with Islam, and in fact, we had already been attacked for 400 years. And what did we do to the Muslims? We prayed for them for 400 years. But when Commodore Alexius asked the Pope for help, he prayed about it for a year and said, we need to aid our brothers in the East who are being persecuted and killed. So we came to the aid of Commodore Alexius, and it was a war of self-defense. It was a true and noble goal. Yes, some bad things happened later on during the Crusades, which weren't good, but the bottom line is that the Crusades originally were wars of self-defense. They weren't out there just to kill people who weren't Catholic. They weren't out there just to get rich. I mean, there's so many myths and ridiculous misconceptions about the Crusades that just aren't true. So when you actually look at the history, and I challenge you to look up our video, Catholic Truth Crusades, look at our video on the Crusades and see what actually happened. There were wars of self-defense. So even this doesn't indict the Catholic Church. Even this doesn't prove that the Catholic Church was violent, since it was self-defense. And yes, there were dumb wars like the 30 Years' War, which were mostly political, not religious. And if you look at Ireland, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland fighting, most of it's political, not religious. So really, the atheistic case of violence and atrocities really breaks down if you look at the facts. And if you continue to look at the facts, like what atheists have done, it infinitely dwarfs anything that religion has done. All religion combined. Atheist regimes have killed more people in decades than all religions combined in thousands of years. This is insane. Check this out. People try to say that Hitler was religious, but he wasn't. He was non-religious for most of his life. Yeah, he may have been born into a religion, but that doesn't make him religious. He lived as an atheist most of his life, and he killed 10 million people. And only shortly before that, he ended up getting into the closest thing to religion he got into was Norse gods. He believes in some sort of Norse mythology. I don't know how much he actually endorsed it, but that's what he got into. He wasn't actually religious. But people like Joseph Stalin, he was an atheist. And as an atheist, he killed 20 million people. His own people through forced starvation. And if we look at Mao from China, he killed 70 million of his own people. 70 million people. Between Hitler, non-religious, and he killed 1 million Catholics, by the way, and Stalin, 20 million people, and Mao, 70 million people, that is 100 million people in just a few decades. 100 million people in a few decades. Stalin alone has killed more than all religious wars combined. And they've done statistics on this. And this says nothing of all of the other atheist regimes out there. For example, Pol Pot, who killed a fifth of his country's population, just wiped them out. He was an atheist, atheistic regime. Fidel Castro, a known atheist, communist, atheistic regime. Nicolae Ceausescu, Enver Hoxha, and so many more. So many more. I mean, when you get rid of religion and there is no right and wrong, there's no morality, we can do anything. And even atheists, real atheists, will say that there's no such thing as free will. There's no such thing as good and bad. We make these things up in our mind. Our mind is really just brain synapses firing, and you have no control. You can't do anything yourself. You're not yourself. You're just going on instinct. You're just going biologically. We don't have actual free will, and many atheists hold to this. Not all, but many. But the violence, wars, and atrocities committed by atheistic regimes without religion far outweigh those that do have religion and have committed atrocities with religion, which do happen as well. But atheists do not have the colossal amount of good that has been done over the last 500, 2,000 years that religion has done. They don't have anywhere near that good, and they have an infinite more amount of bad. And I think Dinesh D'Souza, who wrote the book, What's So Great About Christianity, he sums it up perfectly. He says this. He says, quote, "Whatever the cause of why religious regimes do what they do, the indisputable fact is that all religions in the world all put together have in 3,000 years not managed to kill anywhere near the number of people killed in the name of atheism in the past few decades. It's time to abandon the mindless, repeated mantra that religious belief has been the main source of human conflict and violence. Atheism, not religion, is responsible for the worst mass murders in history." Thank you all for watching this video. If you like our shirts and you want to evangelize and wear a billboard right on your chest, check out our shop at thecatholictruth.org/shop. Check out our new merch. We have a lot of different shirts, CDs, books, and different things like that. But thank you so much for watching, and like this video, and please share it. Get the word out there and help to undo these lies that so many people just fall away. People are like, oh, I'm not religious anymore. Religion's done bad things. Atheism's the way to go. Science is rational. I'm like, who gave you that science? The Catholic Church, Islam, religion, who developed it over 1,000 years. It was religion. So let's help undo these myths. Please help us to share this video. Please help us to get it out there. Please like it. Please comment down below. If you have any questions, if you have any follow-ups, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you have any questions about anything else, we'd love to help you out and hear from you with that. We also have a link below if you would like to ask a question personally. We have someone on our team who will answer that question for you. And last but not least, please check out our Patreon and our PayPal below and consider supporting this ministry, as it's so important. Souls are dying all over this world and they are not being fed, and we feed the truth even if we're not monetized, even if it's really hard and people don't want to hear it. We preach the truth because that is what Jesus did, and that's what he wants us to do. And make sure to follow us on social media if you haven't. If you want more daily inspiration, check us out on our Facebook groups, our Instagram, our TikTok, Pinterest, or whatever else. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless you.